Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Rayceen Productions MC and producer. And joining me today, first of all, is of course the queen of the shameless plug, the goddess of DC herself, the one, the only, the legendary, the iconic Rayceen Pendarvis. Hey Rayceen.
Hi, everybody. Greetings and salutations.
Yes, and we have a fabulous and special guest with us today. We have former DC Council member Carol Schwartz with us today, and we are so happy and grateful to have Carol here with us. Hey, Carol, welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
It is amazing to have you here with us. I love the background you're giving me, grand and palatial in the back.
Very regal. Very regal.
Yes, a great little fact. Great
all
fact.
Decorated by me.
Oh, lovely.
For better or worse.
Well, as we begin, let out the window. Let's start with for viewers who may not know who you are, a little bit of introduction to yourself and your background.
Well, oh gosh, it's a weird background. I was born in Mississippi, spent some years in Tennessee, Oklahoma, ended up being raised mostly in Texas, went to the University of Texas. It was the only thing we could afford, which was a state school at $50 a semester. And then
$50 a semester, my God, I wish that was the price of school.
450 years ago, okay? And then I was engaged to be married in Texas and was going to stay there. And then all of a sudden I had a chance to take a trip to Washington with a friend who had a summer job, came here for 3 days, 72 hours, fell in love with the city. And all of a sudden I left Texas. I left my fiance back in Texas, and I'm stayed in Washington. I've now been here 55 years. A PS though is my ex-fiance remains one of my dearest friends in the world, as does his wife.
Oh, that is lovely.
That's really wonderful. Hey, Rayceen.
How are you? How are you? I'm just taking it all in.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. This pandemic has kept us apart, but it's good to see your good-looking face.
Oh, thank you, my beloved. It's good to see yours. And thinking about how you fell in love with Washington, D.C.
Right?
This Texas, this voluptuous Texas gal. How did your love of Washington and politics fall into place?
Well, I just fell in love with the city and it became such a part of my inners. And so I did a lot of volunteer work. In fact, I married a man who was equally poverty stricken and paying back student loans and I'd gone through school on scholarships, and he used to joke as I was out doing volunteer work, like at the Black Man's Development Center, counseling drug addicts. I was a special education teacher by training. And he used to joke, he says, we hardly have a pot to, how the expression goes, to do something in.
Oh,
and you're out doing lady, volunteer work like your Lady Astor. So but anyway, so I was very much involved in the community in various ways, which then led me, and we had 3 children in 3 years and 4 months, and no twins. They're now actually 52. One is turning 51 today. Wow. Happy birthday, Hillary. And then my son will be 49 this month as well. So we have these kids, boom, boom, boom. I always want to get my checklist done. So I did it, and thank goodness, everything worked out. Yes. And when my kids were 5, 4, and 2, I ran for the DC Board of Education. And I served there for 2 terms. And then I didn't try to use this board for a stepping stone for the council. I went out into private life, and I worked at the U.S. Department of Education as a full-time consultant. And then I also was a press secretary to a member of Congress. And so I had two really wonderful, interesting experiences, but my greatest love was DC. So several years later, I decided to skip the national thing and come back home and ran for the for the Council of the District of Columbia in 1984.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
I
served
remember it
there
like it was
for,
only yesterday, though. It seemed
yeah,
like
oh
it was
yes.
only yesterday.
I served there for 4 years. I did not seek a second term because my husband, at only 48 years old, tragically died when my children were just teenagers. So in order to take care of my own healing as well as to help them along that journey, I left political life, but I remained for the next 8 years very much involved in our community. I was
Mhm.
first woman president of the 64-year-old Metropolitan Police Boys and Girls Clubs. I was the vice president of the Whitman Walker Clinic, and right when we were in the midst of the AIDS crisis.
Mhm.
And I served 17 years on that board. And so, and on and on and on. I could keep you here on,
But that's so wonderful, because when you talk about your political career, you have to talk about how you advocated for LGBTQIA people when it wasn't fashionable. You were stepping into a platform and advocating for those who didn't have a voice, and you were one of those our allies who were on the front line in the very beginning, saying we must understand the importance of fighting for everyone, but LGBT rights are human rights. And you were just making a difference a long, long time ago.
Oh, well, thank you, dear. And, I only did it because it was the right thing to do.
To do.
But I received the Human Rights Campaign Award for the local hero. I mean, this national organization. And I got, anointed while the national hero was Steven Spielberg that year. And I mean, just really, and then of course the Blade, I got, when a lot of people voted, I got, a lot of heroes, best friend kind of. So I've gotten, some pats on the back along the way. I never needed it because it was a right cause. And my gosh, I used to joke that most of my best friends are in the community.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that.
I used to say most, now I'm saying all. I do have some straight friends, so I don't want them to hear this.
Well, the gays love you.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So, right now, it's an election year. We just had an election here, and now we are entering this new era of the Council of the District of Columbia, where there will be a majority woman, membership as a part of the council. Give me your perspective on that. And while you were on the council, was that ever a thing?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was very excited to see it happening again this year in 2020. Well, actually, they won't be sworn in, to get the majority till 2021. But I became, because the little bit rest of my story is going out into the community for 8 years, and then I ran for my old seat on the council, and which was an at-large seat citywide in 1996 and was sworn in 1997. And when I went in, I took the place of a man. And so we had the first majority council in 1997, and it continued in 1998 till the next election, and then we were back in a minority again. So it's been all those years. It was only that 2-year period in the history of home rule, and now here we are again, and I'm very excited.
Question: which one did you enjoy more, a majority woman council or a male-dominated one? Which one
We
did you
loved having a majority woman council. It was thrilling, and especially for the time, there were so few political, women political people in those days. And actually, because DC is a member of the state legislature, the Council of State Legislatures, we were the only state legislature in the whole country that had a majority of women in its legislature.
Wow.
I think that's so important. And you talk about women and the power of women, the power this year of women and the surge of voting and how it shifted and changing the dynamic.
So exciting. It's
Oh
so
my God, it's so powerful. And then we talk about women and the power of the women's vote. And now, as we go into 2021, here we will have the first ever female vice president.
Oh, speaking of thrilling, I think she was a marvelous choice. And I couldn't be more happy about Biden. I mean, as you all know, I was a Republican for much of my life, and which was also, very difficult in Washington, where the voter
I can imagine.
was 11 Democrats to every one Republican. So speaking of being in a minority, 77% to 7%. And yet I still won successfully. And I even ran for mayor several times and got, near 40 some odd percent, and then always at least a third until the last time. But it was really, and now I'm an independent. I'm a 7-year independent. And but I wrote more Democratic checks this year. I mean, I was just like, I can't tell you, it had a Democratic cause and I wrote out a check. I was just so, I had it so up to here. And it wasn't anything. I mean, I never voted for him, and I never could even look at him on his stupid show or anything where he went around firing people with glee. He's still doing that, firing.
Yeah,
people.
that's his thing.
I am gleeful that we fired him. I am gleeful that we fired him. And so, nobody deserved his comeuppance more,
Let's talk about even the election this year, because it's this year, of course, is one of the most, everyone is saying unprecedented years. Everything is just a lot. And then having an election this year, and then seeing the aftermath of that and the behavior of the current president, the current occupant of the White House, the behavior of him and his lawyers, and the silence of some Republicans. What is your view on that and what's going on right now?
Oh, it's so troubling. It's so troubling. But he is so intimidating, and he is so vindictive that you turn against him. He's going to come after you. But I expect to have in the United States Senate, especially leaders. And they've been quaking in their boots, quaking the whole time. And other than a couple of exceptions, it's mind-boggling to me that they haven't spoken up, because he's been an international embarrassment so much of the time. Not that he hasn't accomplished a few good things along the way, but I mean, you look at anybody says one thing, whether they're in his cabinet or anywhere in his administration, he just fires them. And enjoys it, and then says the most mean things about people. And so I'm not surprised. In answer to your question, I am not surprised that he is doing everything in his power to hold on. But I think he's going to, finally realize that he did get fired, like he likes to do for everybody else, even though he got certainly a huge number of votes. And I think it's time for him to just man up and go about his business.
Definitely. And let's talk a little bit about legacy, because one of the things is, leaving one's legacy behind, shaping one's legacy. I want to touch on two things. One, the capturing your own legacy in your autobiography. What was that like?
Which I'm holding a copy in my hand.
Oh yeah, you've been a great promoter. Thank you.
Quite alive. It's a thick book, but I want you to know that the thicker books are so important. I mean, you're very, very honest and very revealing in this book. And I guess it had to be as thick as it is because you weren't sugarcoating anything. You laid your whole heart out and you poured it out in this book.
I had so many friends, Rayceen, thank you. And it's still, I browse about, and Rehoboth still's carrying it, and Politics and Prose still has it here in DC. And it's been quite a run, and it's been, over 3 years now. and I'm still, doing talks about it and everything. But I didn't want to do it. A lot of friends said to me, Carol, you should tell your story. Everybody looks at you in your pretty apartment and, the way you carry yourself and et cetera. They'd think that you just were a gal of privilege. And yet the ones that knew that it was so the opposite. In fact, I was abused as a child as well, physically abused, and took care of a brother who was a year and a half older, who was intellectually disabled. In fact, my only sibling, starting when I was 5 years old and working in the family little mama papa store when I was 8. So it on the side of town that most people wouldn't even drive in, much less want to live in. And so it was a tough childhood. And then of course, even my adulthood, losing my husband as I did, was pretty awful too. So they said, Carol, you would be inspirational to write. And I just didn't want to go relive it again. I wanted to just look forward, not go back. But then when I finally decided to do it, and I decided after I was out of office and I had more time on my hand, even though I continued doing the charity work, I just had so much more time on my hand. I decided maybe I should. And I'm so glad I did, because not only did I think it does have an inspirational tone to it, and people have told me that, but I think it was therapeutic for me too. And in the long run, it wasn't the reason I started it. In fact, I wanted to avoid it because I thought it would be, drive me off the edge, but it didn't. It ended up being therapeutic. So and it's big for I used thick paper. I did big print. And now I need big print. I didn't used to need it. Now I need it. Oh gosh, we have people here. I'm kidding. I can see, I can see without my glasses. But since they match my outfit, I wanted to show them.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
But anyway, I'm glad I did it. And but I also used it not only as my life story. It's been described by Martin Ostermiel of the WAMU as the best history of DC since Home Rule. And also it's Carol continuing to give her strong opinions on every subject. And I knew it would probably be, since I didn't write it till I was 70 something, I knew it was going to be the only book I ever wrote. So I might as well just get everything in there so I wouldn't regret not having done so. But thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah, quite a life. I mean, you had quite a life. I mean,
a storied life. It's a storied life, so it deserves to be, captured and saved and recorded for future people to read. And it's also, as you pointed out, a history of the district itself, within that time. So that is just so beautiful.
The only thing I wanted to mention that you didn't ask me about, but I'd like to, I know 2020 has been such a horrendous time, and we've lost so many lives, and I send out empathy to everyone, including myself, who's lost so many lives. But I think, as I look back at 2021, the election we just talked about, thank goodness ended the way it did. And I think that I'm very grateful for that. And then also, I think the whole new day of dawning when it comes to the exceptions, not only the acceptance of racial diversity, but the equal treatment of everyone and the calling out where it isn't. And then also another thing is that I just see a so better future, because it isn't even, an appreciation diversity, but it is a respect for diversity and celebration of diversity. I mean, what makes this city especially, and what drew me here, was the magnificent diversity. And it was a beauty with the trees and the buildings, but it was mainly the diversity and economic diversity as well as racial diversity. And I think people that are racist, I want them to go back into their, wherever they came from, back in the wherever.
Caves.
What'd you say, dear?
caves, back in their caves.
Get back to caves. That was the word I was looking for. I want them to go back there and just let them meet with each other and enjoy themselves. And if they're not going to wake up, that's their loss. That's their loss.
Definitely. I'm glad you also pointed that out because within 2020, there's so much that has happened. It's like every day on the news, it's something new. Like every day in 2020 was something new. And, one of the big things of this year, was about, injustice when it comes to race and, racial equality and things like this. This year has been such a big year and a historical year. And we were on the topic of legacy. What do you think the legacy of the Trump administration will look like as it concerns this historic year of 2020?
Well, I so don't want to think about him anymore. I'm so tired of him. I am so over him. I was over him before he got started.
I mean,
but I don't even care. I think it's not going to be anything that's going to be making certainly me proud or our country proud or him proud, and well deserved. But I'm excited about the incoming administration, Biden and Harris, and I look at the people they're appointing, and God bless them, and it's well deserved. These are people with great backgrounds, great experiences. It's not just political appointees, that know nothing about our government and have nothing to add. And I'm excited. So I did want to mention that I think those of us who leave this year soon in December, the end of December, that we also not just look at the horribleness of COVID, even though, as the vaccines certainly give us hope. And if people would just wear their masks, wash their hands, socially distance, we could save so many lives. And I'm a rugged individualist. I mean, I've always said and done and kind of, called myself out as being kind of a rugged individualist. And I pride myself in that. But I don't want to kill anybody by being a rugged individualist. And my rugged individualism never did. Yeah. But people that do not wear masks kill people. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And they should care about that. If they don't care about their own lives, fine. But they need to care about their fellow human beings. Yes. And a lot of them have gotten sick being stupid. Mm-hmm. I never wish death on anybody, but a little sickness was fine with me.
I agree.
But let's make sure the good guys don't get sick. And even the bad guys, just use better sense, okay?
Definitely. And that's a great way to round this out, a great way to end this. How can people pick up your book before we go? How can people pick up your book? I mean, they're in all the bookstores, and I'm sure it's online, Amazon, and all the online places.
Yeah, they could, but they can also get it directly from me. Mm-hmm. And my email address is Carol, Carol, no E, Carol of OF, like in Frank, WDC, like look at this one, Washington, DC, at yahoo.com, Carol of WDC at yahoo.com. If they contacted me, I can either arrange, because I have a building where we have the a little driveway, and I can make it out personally to them, and we can do our exchange, because of course they would have to pay a little money for it. But not what's marked. I'm marking it down a little these days. Yes, but then we could do that exchange. So that's a way to reach me. And also, I don't even mind giving my phone number, since it's listed in the book when there were phone books, 202-332-6832, 202-332-6832. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy holidays. Mwah.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
See you, Carol. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.